Well, we're back for, oh, there goes my voice. We're back for another week here, and it's definitely looking a lot different compared to the previous couple weeks. We were looking at a lot of cumuliform clouds, and now we've got a little bit of stratocumulus starting to make its appearance on the drone footage. All right, so welcome to the webcast. We'll take a quick look outside, and there's the picture. Got a pretty strong polar front up south of Chicago, through Kansas City, and down into the Texas Panhandle. Down in Texas, we're under a southeasterly flow. But let's take a closer look at the mesoscale. We've actually got a little bit of a warm front in the area, even though the WPC analysis is not showing that front. In fact, they've got a little bit of a tail end right there in Louisiana. But let's take a closer look at the analysis, and we can kind of fish that out of the details. Now you can see that down in the San Antonio area, 83 to 85, very warm conditions. But you contrast that with Arkansas, Texarkana, and Shreveport, where it's in the low 70s. That's a pretty significant difference. We need to take that into account, because if we were having a more unstable pattern today, that could be very significant. So that front is out in East Texas. If we look at the wind flow, they kind of converge a little bit like that. So you see that going on right there? So there's something going on right in this area here. And if we kind of look at the details, the analysis details a little bit closer, we're going to find that front kind of in that area right there that separates these mid to upper 70s from these 80s. And we can kind of discount the thunderstorm outflow here in the Houston area. We can just draw kind of a ring around that to show that that's an outflow pool. And we're not going to take that too closely into account looking at the synoptic pattern. But anyway, yeah, that front is right in this area. Now, normally south of a front, we tend to see cloud streets. So the flow will be kind of aligned with the low-level wind. And north of the warm front, we're going to tend to get kind of transverse banding. And that's indeed what we saw. If you look off in the distance there, there's kind of like these rolls out there. And those are aligned kind of a little bit crosswise to the low-level flow. So that's all stratocumulus up at about 2,500 feet, a little bit lower than the cumulus that we saw a few weeks ago. That stuff was up at 5,000 to 8,000 feet. Okay, let's see. Let's start looking at the large-scale picture, and we'll back this off and take a look at the tropics. Well, right now we've only got Leslie, and I think we saw that kind of wandering around the Atlantic back early last week. I'm not sure what the history of that is, but it's been, I think, kind of in that area right there. But we're not expecting that to head for the East Coast. That track is going to take it pretty much back up into the northern North Atlantic. However, in the eastern Pacific, we do have Tropical Storm Rosa, and we've got winds just below hurricane strength. Pressure 985, which is kind of high. However, that is going to make landfall in Baja California and make its way up towards the Ajo, Yuma area, Prescott, and around the Grand Canyon area. So that's going to bring a lot of high precipitable water into Arizona, Utah, maybe Nevada, and into western Colorado and New Mexico this week. Here's a quick look at the satellite. You can see it doesn't have that symmetric appearance of a hurricane. In fact, a pretty pronounced dry slot on the south side there, and we can animate that and check out the motion on that. Moving pretty progressively towards the Baja California coast, so that should be making landfall sometime tomorrow pretty quickly. And around that we can see all the debris and high precipitable water, which will be coming inland. And we got a few charts that we can look at to see what that's going to do over the next couple days. Okay, yeah, we'll head off to SPC and see what they've got going on. I haven't looked at any of these products, been setting up the rest of the chart sequence here. No convective outlooks, well, no slight risk or anything like that, just kind of a few general areas, and then you can see it's pretty quiet today. And no storm reports, except for like one little wind dot out there around the Panama City area. Upper level charts showing pretty well-developed Hudson Bay vortex. There it is right there around Coral Harbor, and the flow is just kind of doing like that, coming out of the north, which tends to be cold for the northern plains and western Canada there, with that strong northerly jet stream in that area. Flow is pretty much west to east across the northern tier states, and then off in the western U.S. we've got southwesterly flow with a little bit of troughing there in Oregon. There's one good upper level low out around the Bend area. So this right here, a little bit of a trough, and obviously that tropical storm, Rosa, off the Baja California coast, it's in very close proximity to that branch of the polar front jet, so that'll be picked up very quickly, and that should be moving out of the southwest U.S. by Tuesday. Okay, take a look at the thickness and see what's going on there. There's Rosa appearing very prominently there on the thickness, and we can see a thermal gradient right there in that area across the north-central U.S. and the Great Lakes area. So typically south of that gradient we tend to find the fronts, and there's an inverted trough right there running from pretty much what we said earlier, south of Chicago to Kansas City, Texas Panhandle. So that's being picked up pretty well. Now, it is pretty hard to find that just going strictly off of the surface chart. In this case, yeah, it does show up pretty well. There's wind convergence in this area right here. You can see the wind flow coming together pretty strongly right there. Now, often it doesn't show up quite that well on the surface chart, so that's really where the thickness chart comes in handy. So if we were analyzing this and having some trouble finding the fronts, we would kind of keep that kind of like that right there, keeping that just south of that very strong pressure gradient there in Wyoming. And that puts the front right there from about, I will say about Aspen up to, I guess, around Rawlins, Wyoming. Now it appears we do pick up maybe another front around the Salt Lake City area into Nevada. So I'm going to be kind of checking out that area right there. Looks like maybe a kind of a weak Pacific front, and indeed we do have the upper level support with that upper level low over Bend, Oregon. So we're getting that troughing in that area, and that's a reflection of the cooler air in the low levels. So what I'm showing you is, you know, we're putting everything together, what we've learned on the upper level chart. So there's that trough right there. Remember that trough that we kind of painted out like that? That's across Northern California and Oregon. And out ahead of that, we've got a branch of the polar front jet running like that right there. Trough is located right in this area here, the ridge located right in this area. So we would expect to find the front kind of in this area right there. So eastern Nevada, western Utah, and the Bear Clinic low right there around, I guess that'd be around Elko, Nevada. So we switch over to the thickness and we look for that consistency in the vertical, and yeah, we do definitely find that. So cold front right there, warm front in the Salt Lake City area, and that'll sort of loosely connect up to that Canadian front that's doing something like that right there, probably quasi-stationary in Colorado. And if that continues moving east, that should kind of link up a little bit with that Canadian front there. So that's what's going on across the Rocky Mountain region this evening. So that Canadian front is being supported by this high pressure area in the Grand Forks area. And that front that we have there in Texas, that's probably being supported by this big high across New England. So we've got that northerly flow coming out from that, north to northeasterly winds across the southeast U.S. and in Georgia, and by the time we get into Texas and Louisiana, it's just kind of a very weak easterly flow. Okay, then that brings us up to the north. Let's see what's going on up in that region. That's where the big upper level vortex is. Remember, that was over the Coral Harbor area right there. And we see a huge area of depressed thickness values. This is all the cold air mass, very large and deep cold air mass. We'll try to, let's look at a skew-t in this area. We'll get kind of a sample of that on the skew-t so you can get an idea what that's going to look like. It's very important as we get into winter, because some of these air masses will often move into the U.S., and you want to be able to recognize that. So there's Baker Lake. That's in just west of Hudson Bay, and we see a very deep, very cold air mass, and there it is right there. So we go from around 20 degrees Fahrenheit in the low levels, and it just gets cooler and cooler with height. So that's definitely very cold. And by the time you get up to 20, 30,000 feet, you're down to about minus 50 Celsius there. Take another look at Fort Smith. It's going to be close to northeastern Alberta, and kind of similar there. You can see the lower tropopause right there at about 30,000 feet, and there's that strong northwesterly flow moving through that area. Okay, let me just check the stream health, because we were having a lot of problems with that last week. And before I do that, I've got to get my cursor back. Let's do that. And well, we dropped 977 frames earlier, and that's going to be, let's see, 24. That's, I'm trying to figure out how many seconds. I guess we lost about 20 or 30 seconds there. We're pretty aggressively working to get rid of these issues, and it's not really in the budget this past week to replace any equipment, so we're just kind of seeing how things are tonight. And then looks like probably later this week, if we have issues, we'll start replacing equipment. And we're trying to avoid that because it's a little bit costly, but we will get to the bottom of this, because I'm not happy about it, and I'm sure you guys aren't either. All right, let's look at the satellite. Well, that's a little bit different. We haven't seen this in a while. Look at all that stratus and stratocumulus across the north-central U.S. Where's my cursor? All right. Go out to my other windows and try to find the cursor. Okay. Nope. All right, let's see. Where's the cursor? All right. I'll just restart the process here. Hang on a second. Okay, I think we got it back here. So let's go back to the windows. All right, back to the satellite. So, yeah, this is all associated with cold air advection. This is going to be along and north of that front. So that front is located right in that area there, curving back towards northern Colorado. So what's happening is we've got a little bit of overrunning over that front. Down near the surface, we've got kind of cool north winds. And then once you get about 2,000 or 3,000 feet above the surface, we've got southerly flow coming across and over that cold air mass. And because of that, you're going to get isentropic upglide, or overrunning. And we can see that on the skew-t. I'll bring up Omaha. And this is a good example right there. So you see right there a couple of wind barbs in the lowest couple thousand feet, north winds, and then when we get right at that level right there, we start picking up southwesterly flow, and that's going to be about 2,000 feet off the ground. And you can also see how there's cold air in the low levels. Temperatures in the 40s this morning there in Nebraska, and then they warm up into the 50s once you get about 3,000 or 4,000 feet up. And it gets, yeah, we pick up another warm layer up at about 10,000 feet. So we can pretty much identify the air masses there on the soundings. There's the cold air mass. You can see the frontal inversion right there. And it looks like we pick up this intermediate warm layer right there. Kind of an inversion right there. And then above that, that's all tropical air pretty much. Okay, let me see why my windows went blank. May have to hit refresh. Let me just check things out real quick. There we go. We'll just hit refresh and get these to come back up. All right, let's see. I'm going to put up this technical difficulties graphic real quick. And what's happening here is Firefox. Looks like it's out to lunch right now. So let me just kind of play around with this and see if I can get it working. And I think it came back up. No? All right, give me just a second, guys.
To make your evening of entertainment more enjoyable, our refreshment stand has these delicious favorites: hot and crispy pizzas, Observe the laws of your city, state, and nation. They exist to protect the rights and freedoms of everyone. Please replace the speaker on its stand. If you accidentally break the cord, please turn the speaker in at the refreshment stand or the manager's office. Thank you. And by the way, on your way home, drive carefully.
America, my land, your land. But will it always remain America the Beautiful? Pollution, a threat to life and health, not to mention one of our greatest natural...
Okay, we're back. That's never happened before. I had basically all of the Firefox windows that had a graphic open all went black. So probably what I need to do is restart these browsers before I set this up. And we did drop a few frames, but that's because we were loading up all the products. So let's see where we're at, and let me check on chat here. All right, let's see. We got Carl Burkhoff here and Brian Lowe. And JT reporting fall color not so great, at least not yet. David Lumbert there in Arkansas, 79/68. Erica Baker is 76/66. We have Burl H here, and let's see, Fun with Tech. Mike R reporting clouds increasing over Central California this evening. First rain of the season expected tomorrow night. Andrew Hotchkiss and Sue M. David Krob has GOES 17 update news. Jeff Krob is getting wind grids updated. And I'll have to just kind of skim through this. Sounds like GOES 17 is going to be coming online here. Michael Burrell is here, and SVF. All right, and let's see. Yeah, Firefox is garbage, Chrome all the way. Yeah, see, what I do here is there's a open all links and tab. I don't know. Let me see if I can show this to you. Hang on a second. Yeah, see, this is how I open up the bookmarks in Firefox. And I don't know if Chrome has this, but you go to bookmarks, and they've got this link here that's open in all tabs. I don't know if Chrome has that, but what that'll do is that'll open up 30 pre-saved charts that I have, and that's kind of what I use to set up all the slides, so you know I don't have to go to every site over and over each evening. So I don't know. If Chrome has it, I might give that a shot. All right, so let's see. I've got some of the basic model data, and I think we're going to get back on track here. October is definitely looking cool from what I saw. I had the CFS up earlier. I was going to show that to you guys, but what that was showing was very persistent vortex out over the Hudson Bay area, very persistent northerly flow coming in from Western Canada. And one telltale sign that I saw was the precipitable water. And let me go over to that one. Okay, so when we start out with this precipitable water product, this is on the this evening, and you can see up to about 1 to 2 inch amounts there on the Texas coast, and southeasterly flow coming on shore there. But take a look what happens. Okay, so we've still got moisture coming in, onshore flow there for much of the week, and by the time we get up to the weekend, we've got a lot of high pressure up there in Canada, still bringing the onshore flow, but next week is where things appear that they're really going to change. Okay, first off, you see this frontal low there in South Dakota there. This is next Monday. Very strong cold front starting to come south through Utah, Colorado, and Kansas. And back in behind it, a big 1042 millibar high. So this is a lot of cold air coming southward. We roll that a little bit further, and we see that first bit of cold air coming in around the 13th, 14th, 15th. And the CFS was showing that that pretty much kicks all the precipitable water down to the coast there. And it pretty much stays down there. So it kind of looks to me like we've got maybe one more solid week of warm temperatures. Next week appears to be kind of a transition period, and then I think we're going to be looking at much cooler weather getting into late October. Kind of an early start to winter there. So checking out the upper level pattern, let's see what's going to be going on. You can see that strong southwesterly flow there in California. Strong upper level low off the coast there, and there's the remains of Rosa. And we see a couple waves coming on shore. There goes one heading out into the Great Basin area, and then this low off the California coast digs in. So precip chances will be going up for California there around Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then that trough will be moving onshore around Thursday or Friday. And the flow out across the south central U.S. really amplifies there. You can see that very strong southwesterly flow there. So that is probably going to increase the chances of rain in the central U.S. Looks like a blocking pattern up there in northern Canada. It's pretty much a classic omega block right there. Big cutoff high up there, and down to the south, strong zonal flow in the Pacific. So this is late next week. A couple of strong troughs come in across the western U.S. Starts breaking down this upper level high in the southeastern U.S. A couple good jet maxes coming to the southwestern states, and you can see how amplified this next trough is. This is going to be next weekend around Sunday. And this is a piece of jet stream energy right there. And I think that probably paints a chance of maybe some widespread thunderstorms. Oklahoma, Kansas, West Texas. Looks to be kind of a wet pattern for that area. And let's see, going in further into the 8th, 9th, and 10th. Very strong trough out in the western U.S. It's not going to be so cold for the eastern U.S. because of the influence of this big upper level high that's kind of parked out over this region, so it's going to stay warm out east, but a lot of weather out west associated with that trough. Very unstable and unsettled. Here comes another piece of jet stream energy coming in for the 10th. And it looks like with this next bit of northwesterly flow, that's what's going to really push down the cold air around the 13th and 14th. And it looks like a couple more big troughs on the way. So October's looking a little bit stormy there. We'll check out the surface pattern and see what's going on, looking at the GFS. So starting out, this is this evening's chart. So there's the fronts, and then of course we got that Pacific front there in Nevada. And there's the markings for that. So that's how things look this evening, and we've got that other warm front down in Texas. And then rolling that forward, you can see the remains of Rosa coming inland. A lot of rain there for Arizona Tuesday, and then looks like by Wednesday things have pretty much cleared out in that area. Very unsettled up in the north central U.S. there. This is Wednesday. You can see snow bands in Saskatchewan, Alberta, and northern Montana. Pretty strong frontal system coming up into Ontario. And let's roll that into next weekend. Looks like another front up there in Kansas and Nebraska. A lot of rain chances for that area going into the weekend. Looks like upper level wave moving across this area right here. Thunderstorms get going for Saturday. And then for Sunday, let's see. Yeah, look at that mountain snow right there as that upper level low approaches. And then there's those thunderstorms down there in Texas as we get that very strong troughing out in this area right here. And with that troughing in this area right here, that's going to help get that low-level jet going in that area in Texas and Oklahoma. So that'll start bringing up a lot of moisture, feeding these storms here. So, yeah, the next weekend does look kind of stormy there for Texas and Oklahoma. And wow, look at that winter storm up there for Monday, a week from now. Let's draw those fronts. Actually, that cold front is going to be more like that right there. And then back behind a little bit of a wave back in that area. But very strong upslope flow in the Dakotas and Montana. See that easterly flow. So that's going to bring some of the wraparound. We get that lift from the terrain and the cold air advection working on the area. So this is all kind of a potent area for snowstorm around the Rapid City and Sturgis area. And then it'll move up into North Dakota for later on Monday. 1040 millibar high coming in. Let's see what things look like for the 9th, 10th, and 11th. Stormy pattern for Oklahoma there. GFS is bringing a system in from the Atlantic. Looks like maybe a tropical storm or hurricane coming into the Florida area. It's too early to really call that, but it does look kind of active for that area. And let me just check the stream health. Looks good. Okay. And we'll just go ahead and finish this out. Another cold blast on the way. Another snowstorm. Actually, I went back a little bit. No, let's go up to... Somehow I got backtracked there. Okay. There we go. Yeah, this next front here around the 14th, 15th, that appears to be when we transition into fall proper there. So there's that polar high. And this one is going to push all the way down into the Gulf. And that should change things for quite a while. And that brings us to the end of the run. So I guess we successfully navigated that browser problem. Looks like a lot of you hung in there, and I appreciate that. Yep, Windows 10. Chrome does have an option to open all tabs. Okay. Yeah, we'll take a look at that. Hopefully Firefox doesn't do this again. You know, we've done about 700 or 800 streams, and I've never had Firefox do that, so I think that was probably something very unusual that happened there. So hopefully it doesn't happen on Tuesday. So yeah, we'll be back on Tuesday, and I appreciate you all joining us, and we'll get that music going. Anyway, thanks for joining, and we'll check things out on Tuesday and keep track of this big transition into winter. And we'll probably have a lot to look at. Those charts are getting very interesting. All right, so have a good evening, take care, and we will see you on Tuesday. Bye-bye.